PBS News is giving you 20 fun facts about inaugurations, one each day until Trump is sworn in. Amna Navaz kicks us off with number 1.
So the oath that the president-elect will recite comes from Section 1 of Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
George Washington was the only U.S. president ever inaugurated in 2 different cities, 1789 in New York City and 1793 in Philadelphia, which was the capital at the time.
Until the ratification of the 20th Amendment in 1933, inaugurations used to be held in the 3rd month of the year, specifically March 4th.
The first inaugural ball was hosted by James Madison in 1809. Tickets were $4.
The nation's 5th inauguration was Thomas Jefferson's 2nd term, and he started this tradition known as the inaugural open house. That's where the White House is open to the public so people can come and greet the newly elected president. Andrew Jackson tried this on his inauguration, and it was so popular that thousands of people came and he had to flee to a local hotel to avoid the crowds. President Bill Clinton was the last president to revive this tradition. He invited 2,000 people, chosen by lottery, to come to the White House, where they met with the president, Vice President Al Gore, the First Lady, and the Second Lady.
6 outgoing presidents did not attend the traditional public inauguration ceremony for their predecessor.
The presidential oath of office has been administered outside of Washington 7 times. George Washington twice in New York City and Philadelphia, John Adams in Philadelphia, Chester A. Arthur in his New York home, Theodore Roosevelt in Buffalo, Calvin Coolidge in Vermont, and Lyndon B. Johnson on Air Force One in Dallas.
William Henry Harrison had the longest inaugural address in history and more than 8,000 words, specifically 8,445. He also served the shortest presidential term, dying 1 month later from pneumonia, largely believed to have been brought on from the cold, wet conditions during his speech. Lisa?
There have been 9 extraordinary inaugurations. The first was in 1841 when John Tyler took over after William Henry Harrison died. Another one, 1881, when Chester Arthur was sworn in New York City after the death of James Garfield. The most recent, 1974. That's when Gerald Ford was inaugurated after Richard Nixon resigned.
10 million viewers. That's how many people watched the first ever televised inauguration. It was 1949, Harry Truman's 2nd inauguration.
The country's 11th inauguration, Andrew Jackson's first, was the first to be held outside of the Capitol building. Before then, the ceremony was conducted in either the House or Senate chamber.
The president-elect will recite the oath to become president around 12 noon on Inauguration Day.
Our 13th president, Millard Fillmore, was inaugurated on July 10, 1850, following the death of his predecessor, Zachary Taylor, a member of the Whig Party. His inauguration marked the last time that a president took office who was not affiliated with the Democratic or Republican Party.
For Bill Clinton's 2nd inauguration, 14 official inaugural balls were held. The Clintons made an appearance at every single one, a record for the most balls visited in American history.
The nation's 15th inauguration for James K. Polk's only term in office in 1845 was also the first inauguration to be reported by telegraph.
A delay of the 16th presidential inauguration leads some people to wonder if the United States had a temporary president for a day. Zachary Taylor was set to be sworn in on March 4th, 1849, but that's a Sunday, and Taylor didn't want to take the oath on the Sabbath. So inauguration was pushed to March 5th. Until the 20th Amendment was ratified in 1933, the presidential term ended at noon on March 4th. So some people argue that David Rice Atchison, the president pro tem at the time, was technically president for a day.
The 17th inauguration ceremony for President Franklin Pierce was notable for who didn't attend. Vice President William King was ill and in Cuba at the time, so he was sworn in there, becoming the first and only vice president to be sworn in on foreign soil.
The inaugural ball for 18th President Ulysses S. Grant's 2nd term was held on one of the coldest days in March up to that point in Washington, D.C. history. So those attending had to wear coats. Oh, why, thank you. And if they were drinking champagne, it froze. One more thing. They brought in canaries to liven up the event, flying around overhead. Well, they froze and fell on people's heads.
Our country's 19th presidential inauguration was the debut of an iconic American look, Abraham Lincoln's beard. Leaving Springfield, Illinois, to travel to Washington for the ceremony, Lincoln appeared in public with a full beard for the first time, after 11-year-old Grace Bedell famously wrote to him saying the look might help him win the election.
Since 1937, the inauguration has always been held on January 20th, unless January 20th falls on a Sunday, in which case it takes place on January 21st.
Tune in to PBS News' live coverage of Inauguration Day on January 20th.